What's up, everybody, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 8 of the Strength Empire Podcast. This is your host, Justin Blatnick, and this season is all on strength athletes, or crossover strength athletes, as I've said before. And these are people that have excelled in multiple disciplines, whether it's powerlifting, weightlifting, strongman, or the Highland Games. These people have competed at a high level in both sports. Before we begin and get into the episode, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast at whatever platform that you're listening this to, and make sure you leave us a review. We've got another review come in from Jacob H., and I think I know exactly who this is. Obviously listened to one of the episodes and recommended that I do a weightlifting meet wearing a Borat singlet. It would be legendary. He also said, love the podcast. This in all caps is what every strength athlete has been waiting for in a podcast. Well, thank you, Jacob. I really appreciate the review. And I told you guys we would give him shout outs on here. So before we get into this one, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Follow us on your social media. The Strength Empire Podcast can be found on Instagram. It's probably where most of my info will be. We put up questions if you want to ask questions to the guests. I do that kind of short notice, though. As well as make sure you follow the gym. It's a little weird time to follow. Our gym is at Strength Empire Gym on multiple platforms. It's a little weird time. This is being recorded and put out during this coronavirus situation. So if you're coming back and finding this down the road, awesome. Thanks for joining us. But as well as we're trying to continue to put out this content and have you something to enjoy while you're probably cooped up at home and not training like you'd want to be. But it's going to be okay. So this episode, I'm excited to have Ben Moore on as my guest. Ben is a gym member. He's been there for a while, but somebody who's been really good in the strength game is kind of on the latter part of his career. So we have a lot of good lessons to learn from Ben here. I literally asked some personal questions to Ben, and he's been one that I've confided in with a lot of gym-related questions, such as where should we go, what should we do, how am I doing with our gym? And it's just trying to rely on somebody who has more experience than yourself. So I'm really excited to put this episode out and really excited to finally sit down with Ben. It's funny that this ended up being a long-distance episode, but I hope you enjoy it, and we're going to jump right into it.
And we're on live. I guess it's not live, but I'm on with Ben Moore. So, Ben, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no problem.
And go ahead, take a sip. Ben, what are you drinking on? So, Ben and I are both drinking right now. I'm drinking beer. He's got bourbon. What do you got, Ben?
This is the Gibby Store Pick, 1792 full proof, 125 proof. Not what I started with. I had a warm-up for it, but it's good stuff.
Awesome. And
this is Kevin Smitty's favorites.
Shout out to Kevin. I don't think he'll listen to this, honestly. He might. I don't know. If it's you, he might. I'm drinking. It's been cool. For those that don't know, I don't know if people really follow or care how much about my life on this podcast. I'm in Memphis right now, which is not normal. With this coronavirus, I'm working with my brother. So the first thing I did when I went to the grocery store to buy groceries, because I'm going to be here for about 3 weeks, is I went and got a Pick Sick, a local beer. And Ghost River Brewing Company is a big brewing company over here in Memphis. So this is their Irish-style red ale. And then I've got a backup of their golden ale. So nice. Just got what I could. I had a couple good ones. I can't remember the names of them now. I had a couple good ones the first couple nights I was here. I drank like one a night. So I grabbed 2 for this one. So, but yeah, so we're going to talk training. Ben is a gym member. It's so funny that we tried to do this one in person, and now I'm now even further away to do it via Skype and then the whole social distancing thing or whatever you want to call it. We are now interstate doing this. So, Ben, let's get a quick rundown of let's get your stat line up or what's your strength sport career been like? And we'll kind of go back and delve through that.
So, started training in high school like everybody else. Had a coach that was into all the bigger, faster, stronger stuff back in the day. Started competing in powerlifting in high school as a freshman. Bombed out of my first meet. Didn't hit a squat. So, it's been a fun ride. But did that all through high school for football, obviously, and then got to college. Like everybody, I was recruited Division II, Division III. I wasn't very good. Really small too at the time. Which is funny.
Yeah, it's really funny.
But I decided not to play. Went to Missouri State, which was Southwest Missouri State when I was there. Like everybody, you get the fall and you get the itch. So you go out and you take a look at maybe walking on. And I was a guard in high school. When I graduated, sophomore year I was 250. When I graduated, I was about 190. So I dropped a ton of weight. And got to college there, Division I. They're not Division 1A, but Division I. and average size for the lineman was 300 pounds. So I'm, and they were 6'3" plus. So, and I'm 5'11" on a good day with a tailwind. And, and I'm, at the time I was, maybe 215 or so. And so that wasn't, and I wasn't fast enough to be a linebacker. So that dream went away pretty quickly.
Okay.
Got into cheerleading and also got back into powerlifting. Met one of my fraternity brothers, started training together, did some meets, some local meets really. And then my junior year, we got into strongman. Met a guy named Brad Pitt, funny enough, little troll-looking dude from St. Louis that had a big long beard, and he had been doing strongman forever. And that was his first powerlifting meet. So we started talking at the meet, and he's like, "Yeah, you guys should come to St. Louis and train with us." And so one weekend we packed up, went to St. Louis, and went to Eagle Gym. If anybody ever has been to St. Louis and has visited Eagle Gym, it's one of the original. Yeah, it's one of the first hole-in-the-wall, nasty-ass gyms. Got there, was able to meet up with a guy named Willie Wessels. If anybody knows strongman, one of the first to ever do it, was the owner of NAS, and then now owns United Strongman, whatever. I think United States Strongman is the name of his federation. Yep. So training with those guys. Mike Wortham was there at the time, and then, ended up meeting, Jesse Marunde and meeting Phil Pfister and all the old guys from back in the day. Got into that pretty hot and heavy, graduated, stuck with strongman for about 10 years, all the way up to lightweight pro at 231. I walked around about 260 and cut to 231. So, yeah, it was pretty brutal. Then I got to be a pro and decided I didn't have any other goals there, so I went back into powerlifting. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. All over the mic. That was a good one. And then I spilled it all over me.
Did a couple geared meets, funny enough. My best geared total was 2,031.
Okay.
It was like an 8-something squat, 4-something bench, and a 6-something deadlift, somewhere around there. I wasn't good in gear, and being that I travel for work or have traveled for work, it wasn't a good thing it wasn't fun to try to find a place to go train gear. So got out of that, got back into raw powerlifting, or at least powerlifting in knee wraps, what I call raw. And then started competing in Kansas City. At the time, met up with Jeff Frank. It was one of the first meets back that I did. Totaled 1807 or something like that. Jeff will tell you that I moved my last squat to jump him, but I didn't. But he still is mad about it to this day. And then stuck with wrapped raw that was 2008. So did that up until last year, a couple years ago is when I got out of the wrap. But my best raw total in wraps was 2177. Squatted 865, bench 512, I think, and pulled 804. So
you literally in wrapped, you out totaled your geared lifting raw.
Yeah, like I told you, I wasn't very good in gear.
Wow, that's impressive to out squat your. Did you out squat your geared squat in wraps?
I think I was 10 pounds shy.
Oh, okay. And then you easily out benched. You said
easily out benched because I just didn't know a bench shirt to save my life, and I've always been a good deadlifter. Yeah. And strongman obviously has a ton of carryover to deadlifting, so. I pulled 800. I tried 800 in a meet 4 different times before I finally got it.
Wow.
That was kind of my, signature, like, swan song. Okay, I've done it. Now I can go.
I like it. And then you did one meet here recently. Well, I say recently. It was about a year and a half ago, maybe. Was it 4 years?
It was less than a year.
Less than a year. Oh,
So,
whoops.
yeah.
Um, did you wrap up for that
July.
squat or for that meet?
No, I went in sleeves. That was my first sleeve meet. I ended up squatting just under 7.
Mhm.
I should have gone over 7. I didn't really know where I was.
You had like 690. You had tons in the tank.
Yeah. I should have gone over 7 that day. Benched 430 or something like that, and deadlifted 750.
Yeah.
So, at 42 years old and somewhat fat. So,
Now, how much lighter were? So, talk to me about. I know a little bit more about your weight gain. So, where was your like best total at versus? I know you had like you put on some weight at one point. So, what was that balance there? Where did you lift the best? Where did you feel like you lifted the best, or where did you technically put up the best numbers?
So, like I said, I was a lightweight pro. So I competed at 231. I walked around about 260, and then I figured out what food was, and I got up to 300 pretty quick, and then kept going and got up to about 365 was my biggest. I had trouble tying my shoes. I couldn't wipe my ass. It was bad.
Hey, real quick, too much information. What did you do in that case?
What's up?
So what did you do if you couldn't wipe your ass?
Well, I could, but I had lat cramps. I mean, if you have lat cramps wiping your butt, it's not fun. It's not fun at all.
Okay. I've never been that big to know, to be honest. So I had to ask.
Bad.
Hey, all things go on this podcast.
Yeah, it's bad. So I figured out what a CPAP was around that same time, so I could actually sleep. But yeah, it was. So I got about 365. I competed at the American Open, which was at the Fit Expo in LA, with Jeff Frank. I got 3rd there. So it was a good meet for me. That was actually the same meet that Brandon Lilly tore up his knees.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I saw him going down. So which was a terrible thing to watch.
Yeah, I've seen the video. It's not fun.
Yeah. So I got there, got 365, realized I was way too fat and I couldn't move, and I wanted to get down and jumped down to about 330, and then I was cutting to 308. My best total was at 308. My best total, actually, I walked in and weighed 308. I didn't cut. So it was, no stress, just walk in and lift. And obviously I ate like a madman the night before the meet, but I was probably up to about 330 or 340, but I was about 308 was my best total. So I felt like at that total or at that weight, I still had a good squat. I still had a belly, so I could bounce out of the hole pretty easily. Bench was the same thing. I had some thickness to me, so I didn't have to have as long of a stroke. And deadlift, I could get in a better position at 308 than I could anywhere else.
Okay. And now you said you walked in versus that meet was your best meet versus cutting for all these other meets. And some of those, I mean, they're big weight cuts, but proportion to body weight, 10%, it's not even 10%. Do you think that probably what do you think played the biggest role? Do you think that was it? Because obviously cutting weight is such a hot topic nowadays, and it's something that everybody feels like they have to do.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If you're at a national level, you're going to some invitational meets, you're doing the bigger meets, I feel like cutting is a viable option because I feel like you need to be at the top of whatever weight class you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you weigh in right at that, great. But a lot of times that means you're 10% over that and you cut to that weight. For local meets, I think it's a waste of time. And especially for new lifters, I think that you're setting yourself up for failure because you don't know how your body's going to react to that. And it takes years of practicing that to be able to figure out how to maximize what to get out of a cut.
Okay. And it's interesting. Like, it's funny. I completely forgot the geared lifting segment of you. You're now my 3rd podcast guest in a row that's had some sort of geared lifting in their career. Yeah. And then also I've actually talked weight cuts with everyone as well the past 3 times. It's kind of cool to see the recurring theme of, how did you do and how did you handle it and stuff like that. So Let's kind of go back and segment some of that stuff up. Before we even at the end, I kind of want to touch on what you've been doing now. Because I've got a lot of friends, especially in the Highland Games community, that I think would benefit from the knowledge of what you're doing now. But let's talk strongman. So you were obviously young in your strength career. What do you think led to your success in strongman? I mean, you said 10 years as well, so that's a pretty lengthy bout of time to train strongman, considering that most people get pretty beat up with strongman. So talk me through, like, what was your typical training setup like that helped you have that long career?
Yeah. So number one, I got into it early. So early in meaning when strongman was just getting popular in the United States. So it wasn't quite as heavy and ridiculous as it is now for the lightweight pros. Mm-hmm. When I got out of it, it's because I was getting beat up and needed to take a break from it. So I never had any major injuries, but I had like small bicep tears and calf tear and some other stuff that, wasn't fun. So make sure I could still move around. Okay. But as far as like training goes, it's funny because you see guys now that train events all the time, and that's all they do all the time. So when I was at my best, I had one upper day, one lower day, and an event day that was about 6 hours long every Saturday. So I didn't train a ton. I trained to recover. When I did events, I tried to go about 10% over contest weight by the time I was pretty close to the contest. So when I got to the meet, I was, I could fly over the contest weight easily. But that was it. It was pretty simple. I alternated, when I had my best pull at that time, which was I think around 700, I was alternating heavy weeks. So I would pull heavy one week and I would do shrugs or bent rows the next week just to give my back a little bit of a rest. And it wasn't scientific. When I was in college, my buddy that I trained with was really into West Side. So I've trained West Side back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And right when Louis was starting to put all the articles in Powerlifting USA and all that stuff. So, we did that for a long time. When I got to powerlifting, when I got to strongman, I figured I needed to really kind of just minimize it, minimize the impact of my. I didn't deadlift on event days. I would deadlift during the week, and I was squatting the same day. Squat was secondary to my deadlift, just based on strongman. And then my upper day was pretty much I would have like a push press. Variation, like whether it's with an axle or whatever. And then my lying press, my bench would be like a 3-board, mainly, was my tricep work. So looking back now, it was really funny. It was so minimal, compared to what a lot of people are doing now with all the periodization and all the stuff.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, man, you're only training 3 days a week. And you see guys now training 5 or 6 days a week with strongman and events every day, or they'll do 3 days a week and then an events day. And it's just like, it's crazy to see that you had success from cutting things back.
Well, you see so many guys flame out. I mean, I saw some guys that could be world's strongest men that because they just tried to do so much at one time, they lasted 3 or 4 years and they were done. You never heard from them.
Right. So what do you think might be a missing piece from strongman training now that it's gotten a lot heavier?
I think that a lot of guys just forget about the recovery aspect. Mm-hmm. There's a couple guys I follow. Terry Rady, if you follow him at all, is one of the I think he's semi-retired now. He's not competing anymore, but he's like me. He had AFib, and he's got some issues going on. So we both kind of bonded over that. But, he's really big into recovery. He's really big into movement type stuff, especially now. And I think that's a big piece. Guys try to maximize what they do in the gym. And what I've tried to do is I had friends that were bodybuilders. I had friends that were Highland Game athletes. I had friends that were, fitness freaks. You don't make muscles in the gym. You bring things down in the gym. So anytime outside of the gym is what you're supposed to be doing for recovery. If I had it to do all over again, I'd be doing yoga from the very beginning.
Oh, okay. That's a big twist.
Honestly, it is, and I've always been pretty flexible because I obviously cheered in college and I could do stuff. But I think that you look at the old guys, you look at the old powerlifters and the old strongman, and they all walk like this because they've got such developed shoulders and pecs. They're all hunched over and they walk around like this. By the time they're, up in their 70s and 80s, like there's a guy named Herb Strange in Kansas City that's one of the judges. He still competes, but he walks around like this. He's a big, tall guy, but he's probably 6'5", but when he walks around, he's about 6'3" because he does this all day.
So for those this isn't video podcast, Ben's like shrugging his shoulders up and towards his face and dropping his head down. And it's that anterior shoulder, that super tight pec and stuff like that. What's really funny is my brother has actually started putting in yoga more than myself. I do a good bit of mobility work, mostly for my lower back issues and stuff like that. But my brother, and he's 27, but he's a big dude, freaking strong. And he started doing yoga minimum one day. Like he does yoga one day a week. And I caught him, since I'm here living with him right now, I caught him doing yoga the other day. I was like, what the hell are you doing sitting on the ground? He's like, yoga. And then he goes and do like a little stretch. I was like, all right.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds funny and it sounds, whatever. It sounds weird, but there's something to it. Plus here in Charlotte, before all this crap was going down, they had yoga at the breweries. So you could pay $8 and go do yoga and get a beer afterwards. So it's a win-win in my book.
I hear you. So what was your crowning moment in strongman? So you made it to quote unquote the legendary lightweight pro card. And I'm using air quotes for that because everybody talks about in strongman their pro card. I mean, I want to see this card, Ben. It's video. I want you to show it to me.
I've never seen the card. I'm still pretty pissed off. Thanks for opening that wound.
So was that your crowning moment, or what did you have to do to get to that point?
When I decided that I was going to go, because I was middleweight for a long time, like 260, 265, somewhere in there. When I decided I was going to go to lightweight, I started talking to some guys. Matt Reynolds is a guy that was with Starting Strength for a long time, with Ripito and all those guys. And he and I competed around the same time. So he was one of the first guys he went pro before I did. So I talked to him about how to cut, how to do the things I needed to do and get in the shape I needed to be. And when I transitioned over to trying to get to lightweight, that was kind of like my crowning moment, because I figured out that, okay, I can maximize my strength and still be athletic at this point, right? So I can be strong as I can get at 260 pounds, and if I cut right to get to 231, I've only got to be there for a second when I'm weighing in, right? So only got to be there for maximum of 5 minutes, and then I can do whatever I need to. I could maximize my performance that way. So that was, for me, that was the biggest kind of aha moment when it came to strong and strength sports in general, because I transitioned that into powerlifting too, being able to cut a little bit there too. Mm-hmm. But that was my biggest aha moment with strongman.
So what was that competition like? I mean, did you just blow everybody out of the water, or was it a very tough competition for you? Talk me through that one. Sounds like a good one.
I flew to Albuquerque, and it was Platinum Plus contest, mm-hmm. Different levels of contests back in the day. I don't even know what they are now.
But I think in NAT, or if it's still NAT, I think they still use that terminology.
ASC or whatever it is, yeah. It was a Platinum Plus contest. It was in Albuquerque. It was in the middle of a parking lot outside of a gym. It was not, in this big, convention center or anything like that. It was in the middle of a parking lot. Mm-hmm. Myself, Matt Reynolds, and a couple other guys their names escape me. Matt could tell me who they were, but we had a good day. Like, it was, all of us were pretty close. The biggest event that I remember that was just fun was Stones from 220 or 240 up to 400. I I didn't get the 400 stone, but they were in descending platforms. So the tallest platform was 68 or 70 inches. Mm-hmm. So obviously I had to shoulder the stone and then push it up there.
Right.
And I got 4 stones in a faster time than the rest of the guys. And that was actually the event that won me the pro card.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. To win it on stones, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So it was a good day. We all were pretty close. But the funny part was, like, at that point, we all knew each other. Mm-hmm. We all, for the most part, had trained together, or at least talk training, across the country, depending on where we were. And we all supported each other.
Yeah.
That's one of the things about strongman at the time. And it became this way with powerlifting, too, later on. We were friends. Every time we went to a meet, it was like going and hanging out with your friends for the day.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I'm all for shit talking, but I love the camaraderie that you can find in certain people in strength sports. Obviously, there's going to be the people that are just going to not like you, not going to like what you do, going to hate on your success. But so did you have anything else that was in, like, terms of, did you any pro competitions, or what, how did that career shift to powerlifting?
Yeah, actually I never did a pro contest. That's a lesser known fact about my career. I never did a pro contest. And at the time, the way it was set up, you had to compete within a year to keep your card. So I didn't. I ended up letting it go. Life, I had kids at the time. I have three little girls that are amazing and awesome. And but started having kids and cranking on my career and all that good stuff. So I had to kind of let that go for a little bit. Every time I've transitioned from one thing to the next, it's been the hardest thing I've ever done.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's going from letting go of competing that hard and heavy in strongman, and it put a strain on my family and everything else because I was so into it. That was a mind fuck. I mean, it was, trying to let go of your baby, basically.
Okay.
And then when I transitioned from, powerlifting into what I'm doing now, same thing. It's been, trying to let go of something you've done for 10 or 15 years is rough.
Okay. So how did your training adapt or evolve going into powerlifting from the strongman training? Obviously, you don't have that event day, so or did you, quote unquote, use an event day for powerlifting, or what was your training that led to your success, and what did you change maybe along the way working up to that massive freaking total?
I let other people run my programming.
Okay.
You're your own worst enemy when it comes to programming. I'm a firm believer in that. You tend to gravitate towards the things that are easy rather than things you need to do. So there were a couple guys. I kind of ran through the gamut of people, but started out, the first guy I kind of reached out to was Brandon Lilly, because JP Price at the time, which was one of my original training partners when I got to Kansas City, he had started talking to Brandon back when the cube method started coming around. So we did that for a while. I'll never forget the 50 reps with 35 at the end. And, we're both laying on the ground, writhing in pain. And then I was hooked up with the 1020 Life guys, Brian Carroll and Bird, and all those guys. So did that for a little bit, and those guys helped me out with competing. That's actually when I went to the American Cup for a Fit Expo. That I was with 1020 Life guys. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I transitioned to a guy named Michael Greeno that trained with us. I started a powerlifting team in Kansas City. I don't think we talked about that, but I started a team in Kansas City, and a group of guys. We had basically two teams that came together. And one of the guys that came from the other team trained with Al Caslow back in the day, and a couple other guys.
Al has no idea who I am, but I've met him at a couple meets. He's always been a great guy.
He's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Super small little dude, but he is a super nice.
God, he's strong and amazing. So technical. For those that don't know, like Al lifted with Big Iron, and if you guys want to look up some, I don't know if maybe you can YouTube Big Iron with that crew. That's when I was kind of in geared powerlifting. Those were the guys I looked up to. I was a little bigger than Al. Al competed against a couple of my training partners, Garrett Huffman, who was the last episode, and Derek Wilcox, who was the episode before that. Those guys were lifting on the same competition. So I was like in the warm-up rooms with Caslow and Cartinian and Frankel, and it was so cool to see those guys doing their thing because they were so good at it. It was unbelievable.
Those were the originating guys of training your gear. Those were the guys who were like, hey, you got to train your gear to get better at it. And nobody at that point had ever figured that out. They just kept trying to train raw and then just throw gear on for the meat.
Yeah.
Right? So, but yeah, so we had some guys that came together. There was a guy named Michael Greeno that was my coach at the time. Did it for free. Still some of the hardest programming I've ever done in my life. There were days I'm like, I'm not doing accessories. I'm absolutely not doing accessories today. I am wiped. So, and it was a running joke between JP and I of who was going to do accessories that Michael Greeno had put in the program for us. But yeah, I did that for a while. And then when I transitioned later on in powerlifting, when I got out of it, there was a guy named Phil Stevens who actually does a lot of the gear for Hate and Strong out in Mark Bell Strong, gear and all that stuff. He does all that stuff, and he actually owns a gym called Strength Guild in Topeka, Kansas, which is about 45 minutes from Kansas City. And he started doing my programming for a little while. He's the one that actually got me really started looking at dropping weight seriously for later in my life and things like that. At 42 years old, I don't need to be 300 pounds anymore. So I've started figuring out that, I need to drop down a little bit. So that was the biggest thing, is finding a coach and letting other people do my programming, just because it let me just go in and do it. Like there was no thought to it, and I didn't gravitate towards the things that were easy.
Okay. So I don't really know how else to word it, but like, how the hell do you squat 800 pounds in just reps? Like that, I can understand like a strong bench and a strong deadlift. That just comes with time, and I guess it is time as well with the squat. But like, I mean, when I was geared lifting, I was powerlifting in around 2010, 2013 is maybe when I was done in 2012 probably. But like, It was unheard of to hear anybody hitting numbers like that. It wasn't that big of a deal. So like, what do you think, with all those different people you work with, what attributed to your best strength gains in that wrap squat? Because it's just like, I'm not taking anything away from what you've done, but damn near, it seems like everybody freaking strong in wraps right now is squatting just stupid weights. Of course, it's now, I get it, but how do you answer that question?
So number one, obviously the progression of the wraps themselves. I mean, let's be honest, you're putting a caster on your knee and you're bouncing out of the hole. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. So the progression of the wraps is really attributed to people really kind of pushing the envelope with weights, right? The number two piece of that is I'm a speed squatter. I always have been. So for me, it made sense. If I went into the hole fast and I came out of the hole fast, I didn't end up down there very long. The benefit of that is because I wasn't in the hole very long, the judges couldn't figure out if I was in depth or not. So they always kind of edge towards my side. Now, I always squatted to depth. Number three, the guys that I train with. I train with JP Price. I mean, the guy squatted 1,036 in wraps, bench 612. One of the funniest stories we got together because of a guy at a barbershop. The guy's like, he's like, you look like you're strong. Who do you train with? He's like, well, I just bench. He's a bench only guy. He goes, but you need to go talk to my buddy Ben. So he called me or messaged me. I can't remember what we did back in the day, but he started coming up to the gym I was at. We trained together, just the two of us. And then, the more we trained together, the more people started realizing that we were doing some pretty cool stuff. So we just started, getting these people. It ended up being like a 30-person team by the time I left.
Wow.
Was pretty amazing. So, and he was a big part of that. He was a big pusher of the team side of things. And I don't remember where I was going with this, but he, those guys, the ones I trained with, JP Price, Jeff Frank, who squatted 1,200 in gear, his bench pretty damn close to 9. Mike Greeno was the coach at the time. And there's so many people, over with that team that through the years, David LaMartina, which he was a big lifter back in the day. Just so many people who were around that just they made you better just by being around them. Okay. And I'll never forget that time with them because it's you were expected to perform every time you came into the gym. You didn't get to half-ass when you got there. And we joked around, we were nice, we did all the other cool stuff, but when you got there, you worked. And there were many, many days that, and I've still never puked from training. I wanted.
Oh, you broke up there. I heard it. You never puked from training, but?
I never puked from training, but there were many days that I wanted to.
Okay. And so this is something that's interesting that you're speaking of this because it's something that I'd like to build more with our gym. So personally, like I think the team aspect, we've had more of it, and now it's gone away from that a little bit. And I'd like to see it mean more. And here's my thoughts on it. And I want to see what you think of this. And that is, multiple people on this podcast so far have spoken of how important environment was. I mean, starting with the first episode, my brother, it allowed him, when he said it took the governor off from him. He was saying that, when I saw that this was quote unquote humanly possible to do this, he was like, oh, I can do that too. So many guys, I mean, and especially from a geared powerlifting standpoint, you almost cannot do it alone. You have to have that help. But the thing of the idea being like the daily push, that it doesn't matter that I have to lift more than you, but what I like to do a lot of times is, if like you and I were lifting together, okay, Ben can out squat me. So he out squats me by 200 pounds on his max. I'm going to try to, on this variation or whatever we're doing today, stay within 200 pounds. And if I beat him, let's say I'm only 150 pounds off, I'm a winner that day. And I got you. Like, I got you. I did it. I'm catching you. That's how I interpret it. And what I would like to see more, what do you think it would take for our gym to see more of that? Now, I know that probably one of the biggest things is literally it is life schedules, break that apart at times. But so what would you do? What do you recommend to people, and or how's
the biggest thing we did is we figured out times that were generally okay for everyone. Mm-hmm. And Saturday at noon, or excuse me, Sunday at noon, we showed up to train squat.
That was our squat day. Sunday at noon. That was mine in college. That was our big squat day.
Yeah. And we squatted every Sunday, and everybody knew that you needed to at least be there for squat day. What we used to tell the team was, you don't have to be there every day, but I want you here majority of the days. Mm-hmm. If you want to get better, if you want to be a part of this, you have to come train with us. You have to help spot. You have to help do all the things you're supposed to do. The biggest thing that I think that does, and the team aspect of it does, is it pushes everybody to just, you're expected to perform. You're expected to be there. You're expected to, and I told people this before, like I go back to there's an article from Jim Wendler and Dave Tate back in the day, and it was about Timmy the Trainer. And I think I've told you about this.
You talked to me about this one, yeah.
If anybody can Google that, it's amazing. It was on Elite FTS at one time, but they had this whole series of articles about Timmy the Trainer. And one of the first things that happened when Timmy the Trainer came to the gym that Dave and Jim were training at, they said, okay, you can come train with us, but all you're going to do is drag the sled. You're going to drag the sled And when you get good at dragging the sled, then maybe we'll let you come train. But for right now, you need to go drag the sled, because they took him through a couple movement things. They realized his, posterior chain was weak as shit. He couldn't do anything. He was worthless as a training partner to them at the time, right? So the basis of that is it made him want to be there. He wanted to get to that next level. So like if you and I squat about the same, and we go in and we do a variation of the squat that day, let's say it's squat with chains. We used to do swinging chains, like to build stability and stuff like that. So if we go in and do, squat to a certain RPE or percentage with swinging chains, and we're both squatting around the same time, if you hit a weight that I haven't hit yet, I'm going to get pissed off and I'm going to try to hit it too. So it's just that mentality of competing not only on meet day, but every day you go into the gym. That's the huge thing that brings out is when you come together as a group like that, it naturally happens. It doesn't have to be, two people that are exactly the same, that are squatting the same or benching or deadlifting the same. It might be two guys are completely opposite, but one guy hits something that he hasn't hit in forever, and then all of a sudden the other guy's like, fuck, I got to do my best now because he did that. And it pushes everybody up from there. Everybody comes up to that common denominator.
Do you think social media has played a part in that?
Yes. Nobody has to learn from their mistakes anymore.
Yeah. They'll put it on social media and everybody can judge it.
Everybody can judge it. You can look up the perfect training plan. Perfect. I put that in quotes. You look at a perfect training plan, and nobody has to learn from their mistakes. Nobody has to do trial and error. There were a ton of shit. There was a ton of shit that Brian Hosford, my buddy in college, and I did that was worthless. But we tried it.
True.
Just to see what happened.
Yeah. We've done a lot. If you have trained long enough, you've done that. And one that I've learned, and I love this quote, is that it's like if you're a good trainer and you're always learning, you'll look back at programs you wrote like 3 years or 5 years ago and go, holy shit, why did I do this? This was terrible. But
I used to have a whole training block on my wall in my basement. I had a basement gym for a long time in my house, and I had like 3 or 4 people come over and train with me. And I used to have my training block on the wall for like the next 6 months. I didn't know what the fuck periodization was. I'm just going to put together a training block. We're going to figure this shit out. So based on what I knew, which is very, very, very little compared to everybody else, and I wish I had those training blocks to look back on, because I guarantee they were hilarious.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last thing, I'm going to be, this is like I'm asking for critique or criticalness of, because you're someone that it's almost as funny as your Instagram name is, been here, done that. As being someone who's been around the strength game for a longer period of time than I have easily, because it's damn near as long as I've been alive, and with your quote unquote, we're going to use the word expertise. What could you tell me? I'm being selfish, more for our gym. How could you see the gym improving? I kind of mentioned the team aspect, but what would you like to see the further of our gym, knowing kind of the direction of the gym we kind of already have and where we're at? You're the one that I turn to ask advice for constantly. So it's kind of like, let me ask that question and have it public, with what you see with our gym.
Yeah. So I've been around a lot of different gyms. When I worked and lived in Kansas City, I would travel like a 6-state area.
And you also owned a gym.
I was part owner in a gym. It was a Key Club gym in the basement of a haunted house in downtown Kansas City. Wanted all the time. So,
even better.
whole other story. But I think that the biggest thing that we can do, and the biggest thing I saw from all those gyms, it was always known, like if you needed to know a gym in a certain city in the Midwest, like ask Ben, because he's probably been there and trained there.
Okay, I got you.
So, but the biggest thing that I saw, one of the coolest aspects of a gym, there's a gym called 22nd Street Barbell, which is in Des Moines, Iowa. now they've got a great facility. It's big, it's expansive, and they've got plenty of room for everybody. But at the time when I was training with them, they were in the basement of Merle Hay Mall. And same problem I had with my gym, it flooded. So they had issues every once in a while. It was not good flooding. It was like sewage. But the coolest part about that gym and the base people that were in that gym, everybody knew that if there was a meet within a 3 or 4 hour driving distance, if there was a meet, you were going to show up and you were going to go and support, no matter if you were competing or not, you were going to go and you were going to be there and you're going to support everybody. That's what, and we do a pretty good job of it, but there's a lot of people that don't compete, that don't show up.
Okay. And
I'm not saying that necessarily they have to, but it's a really cool thing when the whole gym is there cheering for you. And they had a banner they would set up in their corner of the gym where everybody sat and, ate their snacks and got away from the group. And it was a really cool thing to see. We took that with us for Strong Barbell back in the day. Which was Impact Elite when we first started, but we did the same thing. If there.
I broke up. You broke up right there. You said, hang on. You said we did the same thing. You broke up there for me just a second.
Yeah, so we did the same thing with Strong Barbell, which was Impact Elite back in the day. When I first started it, if there was a meet 2, 3, 4 hours away, you were expected to be there, and you were expected to support the people that were competing, even if you weren't. And it just makes it such a cool atmosphere and such a better day for everybody. So that's the one thing that I wish I could see for us is if there's people competing within 3 or 4 hours of Charlotte, just go be there. Even if you don't go for the entire time. Let's say it's down in Charleston, like the one we did, close to Charleston.
Right.
You don't have to go for the whole weekend, but if you drive down, carpool with a few people for the day and to be there, it makes it that much more fun for everybody.
Awesome. Okay, that's something great to kind of note and take down and encourage people to do. And I think, like you said, we've done a decent job at a couple of the meets that are local where we've had definitely some more, like we'll have 10 to 15 people competing or 8 to 15.
Like Hickory or the one in Charlotte last year with the 2-form debacle, whatever that was.
Just the crowd, the small space crowd. That's been really, really cool to seeing that big a group come out. I mean, it like you said, it'd be even cooler to have even more people. So tell me what you're doing now. Like, obviously, we're obviously in the midst of this coronavirus situation. If somebody happens to list this 6 months from now, but we're in the middle of this, and so obviously you're kind of cooped up at home and training at home. But other than that, what is training geared towards right now?
Yeah, so I have a couple extenuating circumstances. I've got some heart things going on that I'm trying to separate myself from a lot of people. However, what I decided to do with all this is go back to my roots when I had a garage gym or a basement gym, and build a few pieces of equipment that I can use to maximize my effort. So back in the day, I actually built a reverse hyper out of wood. Did all the stuff I needed to do for my gym because I wanted to be the best I could be. Now my goals and my things have kind of transitioned, and I want to get leaner. I want to kind of drop down in body weight a little bit. For the coronavirus situation, I've got a couple kettlebells. I've got a dumbbell. I put together a Bulgarian bag. If you don't know what that is, look it up.
It's like a sandbag and a tire tube.
Yeah, a sandbag and a tire tube that has handles. That's pretty much all it is.
Yeah.
I've got a medicine ball. I've got an ab wheel, some bands, and I've got a set of rings that I drilled through the joist of my apartment neighbor above to set up.
Yeah.
So,
and you have a sled. You drag a sled too.
So, yeah, I made a sled out of a tire that I got for free at the Firestone. That's around the block for me. For me, what I'm trying to do right now is, I want to stay strong. And when I get back to our gym, I'm going to do that. I'm going to squat and deadlift and bench and overhead press and do all the things I normally do. But what this is teaching me is the ability to push myself in different ways. It's actually given me the ability to heal a little bit too. I've had some nagging injuries for years that, I'm hard-headed. I don't want to take time off, and I don't want to back off. And, that's kept some injuries from healing. And what this has allowed me to do is do a lot more unilateral movement so that I can help things heal. So.
Gotcha. I'm laughing at some of the questions I got for you lined up. And I know you and I you actually started to collaborate with me a little bit, and we've kind of with some programming and stuff, and then we ran into the coronavirus situation, which basically you gave me I said, what are your goals? And it was really funny to like sit down and text that to you, obviously knowing your strength career, but you were like, what are your goals? And you were like, well, drop 20 pounds and be able to do stuff outside. So tell me about what you mean by doing outdoor stuff.
Yeah. So I moved out here a little over a year ago. A year ago this past August, so almost 2 years now, I guess.
Year and a half.
Yeah, we'll put it there. But when I moved out here, one of the biggest things that I was excited about moving out here is being able to get outdoors and get to the mountains, to hike, to camp, fish, hunt eventually. I don't have any guns right now, but I will eventually. So, it's I just wanted to be able to get outside. And for a long time, I did that. So this AFib / heart blockage thing that I've had going on is kind of squelched that a little bit. But what I wanted to do was be able to move outside easier and get to a body weight I felt comfortable moving over rocks and under branches and all this other stuff.
Right.
Which the program he put together for me was amazing. Like I really want to get back to that. So.
It was so funny. Like, I mean, it was really fun writing it. It was like, all right, so we're doing one of the simplest ones that I loved writing in there was like, and it was so funny. My reasoning for writing, I was like, we did step over and under hurdles, or we just puts PVC pipes in a rack. And you were like, what is this for? This is great for my hips mobility. I was like, this is for stepping over and under tree branches. Like, it's so fun to write it and think of that. And I was like, why are you doing high step ups? This is for stepping up on big rocks. Like, it was really funny to write it. It's kind of fun. It was fun. It was so different.
Like fucking CrossFit. It's functional movement.
Why is he out of breath stepping over a PVC pipe? Shut up.
Shut up. They're gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so. Yeah, so I wanted to be able to move. I mean, I wanted to be able to get outside and do things I wanted to do. I love the outdoors. I love camping. I'll do a lot of it this year again. I got out to Mount Mitchell. I got out to Grandfather Mountain with you, which is an awesome hike.
Yeah, we did that. That was a fun hike.
Yeah, I've done a lot of the major peaks over this way now, and I just want to be able to get out and move and do the things outdoors I love to do. I'm getting a lot more into photography and doing things, outside. So that's kind of where my training is now. I was texting back and forth with Derek earlier, and we were laughing about what he was doing in his gym. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to have the gas tank of a fucking madman when I get done with this coronavirus, because all I'm doing is pushing myself to the limit every day when I'm outside. I've got neighbors above me that are watching me now. When I go, the guy today, I was out of my patio. He's like, "Hey, you didn't work out today. What are you doing?"
Yeah,
I have stuff going on. I'm going to get out here in the yard in a minute. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's funny to, like, obviously my brother owns the pizza restaurants over here, and he's a big lifter, and they can all tell. And then they're seeing me, they're like, "Man, you must lift weights too." And I'm like, "Yeah, I dabble." It's funny to see that. But yeah, man, it's exciting to see, like, how you've evolved through the years and kind of what you're doing now. And it's just so different, but still, like, the way that you push is something that I love seeing. It's a different style of push, but also coming from somebody who's done the top end of your strength level stuff. To seeing you challenge yourself now, it's it's hard to put words to it. It's cool to see. It's cool to see you pushing yourself in something completely different. And I know you mentioned earlier, it's hard. It's a mind fuck. It really is hard to wrap your head around it. But you do a really good job on how you portray yourself with that stuff and posting that stuff. That it definitely doesn't go unseen. And I think you're spreading a really good message with that, in that you can push yourself doing something completely different, and it doesn't always have to be this, savage, got to be all the weight all the time. I've said I posted it out there that was like, hey, a month without a barbell is probably going to do a lot of people really good.
Yeah, seriously. I've said a pretty similar thing, I think, the other day when I posted, because I was thinking about what you said. And, I mean, you've got – okay, so little bit of a rant here.
All right.
So social media, what that's done to people with lifting is made them prima donnas on the equipment that they use. And the reason I say that is because I told you this when you put the kilo plates in. I'm like, you're going to have people that only want to train on kilo plates. And lo and behold, you've got a lot of people that walk across the gym to grab the kilo plates when there's pound plates sitting right there next to them.
I'm aware with it. Yep.
And that's honestly, that's what it's done is allowed all these people to, I've got to have a deadlift bar. I've got a squat bar. I've got to have, how many times I've gone into a gym and just found the thickest bar I could find. It wasn't a squat bar. It wasn't 7 feet long, but I had to do it that day. And you got to do what you got to do. And I don't know. Anyway, that's a rant. Anyway.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to go with a couple questions from Instagram before we go with my lightning round questions. Actually, I'm going to ask you this question, and you kind of maybe answered it, but we'll see. My favorite question to always ask everyone is, with the knowledge you have now, what would you tell your younger self, or what would you do differently back then? And you can kind of relate it to any specific point in time, if it's 20-year-old you, 30-year-old you, whatever it would be. Just the knowledge you know now, what would you do different back then?
Yeah, so a couple different things. I mentioned yoga earlier.
Okay.
My younger self, I would tell you to do yoga, get involved in it. It doesn't have to be like you're a freaking yogi.
Yeah.
But, just do it 1 or 2 days a week like your brother's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It helps. It helps tremendously. Also, for any guys out there looking to get into it, there's a YouTube channel called Yoga for Big Guys. It's amazing.
Oh, there you go. We need to put that one out there.
Number two, and I kind of did this, and it wasn't intentional, but what I realized after a while is I was smart in doing it. You've got a lot of guys that, and it goes all the way down to high school now, they just jump into drugs. And they think, okay, if I take this amount of test, or I take this amount of Anadrol, or they take this amount of treatment, it's going to magically put numbers on the bar, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't. And I told you before, I've seen guys that are top of their game for 3 or 4 years that just flame out because they don't know how to handle the down. Because you're going to have ups. You're going to have ups, a lot of ups, right? But you're going to have downs, and you've got to be able to navigate that and be able to bounce back from it. Mm-hmm. And there's a ton of guys that just try to take a gram of test a week and just say, I'm going to get out there and do it. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do it for a long time. I was damn near 40 years old before I ever thought about TRT or anything else. So just take your time. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And that's the most cliche thing I can say on this podcast, but
right.
It's true, because even at 42 years old with AFib and a blockage in my heart, I'm still stronger than a lot of people out there.
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, like literally right now, at 10 o'clock at night, you could walk to the gym and go outlift so many people out there right now. With where you're at, you absolutely could. And if people want to try it, well, maybe after coronavirus we'll test it. Yeah. But it's so true.
So one of my coaches, Phil Stevens, told me this, and it rings true. It's back when I was starting to get into some more of the conditioning type stuff and trying to figure out where I wanted to go after competing. He said, okay, I will tell you this. He goes, it takes years and years and years of under a barbell and doing that stuff to build up the strength that you've got, right? If you step away from it for a little bit and you come back to it, it comes back pretty damn quick. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't go away. The conditioning part of it, you can take it and leave it. It'll come back no matter how many times you do it. But if you take the time, you build the strength and you build the tendon strength. And when I say tendon strength, there's a difference. If you're maximizing your drug usage, your muscle bellies and things are gonna grow really, really fast. But there's a reason why people bust biceps and pecs and hamstrings and quad tendons and all kinds of stuff, because those things take a lot longer to develop. There's not as much blood flow there, and you have to be, it's time under the bar. Take your time. That's all, and that's the biggest thing I can tell everybody is take your time.
Awesome. Well, we'll kind of wrap up our portion of the podcast, and we'll go to the lightning round questions as well as the couple questions we have from the Instagrams. I posted a quick thing, like quick questions for Ben. We got 3 of them. One from Big Daddy Brew said, and I'm going to, you know what I'm dealing with today. So we're going to keep this on the hush, but how far do you think you could throw a normal-sized human being?
As far as I need to.
As far as you need to, okay.
As far as I need to and be able to get away from them before they get up. Let's put it that way.
All right, where's this other one's here? Oh, yeah, here we go. Now, I hope he listens to it. He'll have to listen to get the answer. How does it feel to have lost 100 pounds and still be able to hit 1,800 plus total in sleeves? And that is from Kevin Smitty.
It's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Being able to lose 100 pounds and do that was kind of a feather in my cap. To be able to show myself that I don't have to be 300 plus pounds and still do what I do. It was a really fun, just a fun aspect to my whole career. It was pretty awesome.
Okay. And he had a second question. Kevin brought 2. Bring in the heat, so he'll have to listen because I'm not going to tell him the answers otherwise. And he said, also, are you a descendant of a Minotaur or a buffalo?
Buffalo. Hands down.
All right, so where did that come from? So for those that want to follow Ben, we'll go ahead and throw the at Ben here done that Instagram tag out there. What is the buffalo? Where's this whole buffalo thing come from?
So about a year ago, Holly, my current girlfriend, and I started dating almost a year ago now. So we went to eat in Matthews, and there is a store right around the corner from where we're eating. We went for a walk, and there's a store right around the corner from where we're eating called Buffalo Trading Post. And that is actually, funny enough, where we first kissed that night.
Oh, gross. Come on, man. Like, move on.
Yeah. So there's a giant buffalo inside the store, and we both laughed about it. So from then on, like, everything was buffalo. Like, I've got a buffalo money clip. I've got it. She has a buffalo picture in her house. It's ridiculous. That's where it from.
So Ben hashtags buffalo on everything. Well, you hashtag perma-sweaty on just about everything. And then
perma-sweaty, I sweat like a fucking madman.
Yeah.
But
and then I'm right with you on that one. And then it's always something. It's like I look for every post. I look for what's the clever buffalo, like dying buffalo, hyperventilating buffalo, dressed up buffalo. Like, it's just hilarious to find out what it's going to be. It's one of the most clever things I find on Instagram every time I see you post.
But yeah, so short shorts and perma-sweaty are my mainstays, and the buffalo kind of changes out.
Oh yeah. Here, I'm like looking at it right now. Here we go. Dead buffalo. There you go.
That workout today was awful.
Buffalo barbecue and training porch. I missed that one. Oh, that's awesome. Oh. You should have had, and then there's a picture of you fishing of really tiny fish. It should be like fishing buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, so we're going to roll into the lightning round. We're over an hour, and I like to try to keep these about an hour because I don't think anybody can maintain more concentration than that. So
people won't hear me, Justin.
First one is favorite food.
Two favorite foods: pizza and ice cream.
Pizza and ice cream. Okay.
Like every other kid out there.
I know, right? That's a fat kid status. That's my exact two right there. And oh my gosh, right now I'm working in a pizza restaurant all day, every day. I'm like, I'm getting fatter by smells.
Bring me back one of the meat pizzas that I've heard so much
the meat
about.
Muncher. I'm definitely I'm got a big cooler and I'm taking orders, and I've already kind of arranged. I've got to take orders and put them in, and I've got some pizza I'm bringing home. They should stop me and pull me over. I need to bring like an extra for if I get pulled over for what is it, running liquor instead of I'm running pizza. What do they call it? I'm missing the word. Whatever. So favorite beer.
Bootlegging pizza.
I'm bootlegging pizza. There you go. So what's your favorite beer?
Beer?
Yep.
Anything bourbon barrel aged.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much.
And then
so back in Kansas City, there's a brewery called Boulevard, which is a regional brewer. They're not a quote unquote craft brewer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They've expanded their barrels per year. They have a beer called Rye on Rye that started as a Rye on Rye. Then it went Rye on Rye on Rye. And it was Rye to the fourth power, and now it's Rye on Rye and blah 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 blah. So it's a rye ale aged in a number of different rye whiskey barrels over 18 to 24 months, and it's about 14 to 15% alcohol, and that's probably my favorite beer ever. Mm-hmm. Past that, like I said, anything bourbon barrel aged. Okay. I'm a fan.
And obviously, you're a big bourbon fan. So if you had to pick one bourbon, what would it be? Go.
Weller 107.
There it is. All right. Okay. Last two questions, or is it one or two? I'm trying to remember. I don't have this written down in front of me right now. What is the... Oh, if you could only pick one lift forever for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Deadlift.
Deadlift. Why?
Besides the squat, it's a maximum amount of muscle fibers activated at one time.
Okay. And then the last lightning round question will be, what has been your favorite place you've traveled to for a competition, or your favorite competition you've ever done, like kind of all wrapped up together?
There's so many that kind of run together. I would say Record Breakers, only because we went to the Redwoods after that. Okay. And stayed in the Airstream that was in the middle of the Redwoods, and that it was attached to a building that was basically all windows. So when you showered, you were facing trees. It was amazing. But that whole meet, even though it wasn't my best meet, was just a cool experience.
Yeah.
Just we'll see the difference. We went to the Sonoma wine country and all that stuff. So it was really cool.
That's exactly what I'm looking for that question. It's for example, if somebody asked me, I competed at the Lightweight Worlds and the Highland Games, but my vacation in Italy and Hungary and Austria after that was like way cooler than the actual competition. Oh. So, yeah. All right, man.
Life's all about experiences. You gotta rack up the experiences, no matter if it's attached to competing or not.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Well, this was great. I got to dive into – I've heard a lot of this, but dive into a little bit more. It was fun to hear a little bit more of the nuances, the ins and outs, and all the little bits and pieces, stuff that I'm thinking about taking away, like going to do yoga now before I go to bed. But I thank you for your time, man. Enjoy that bourbon, and I hope to see you sooner than later with all this coronavirus mess.
All right, buddy. Safe travels, and have fun out in Memphis and Memphis, Maine.
Yeah. All right, Memphis, Maine. Later, buddy.
See you, bud.